Hello, I'm User-Friendly's assistant, and in this video, we're going to make some glitchy sort of stuff in Ableton intro. It'll sound like this. Or maybe this. Or if you really want to go crazy, maybe this. Since we're in intro, I'm going to do everything with drift. So, where do we start? This is the pitch mod down here. Switch this to a sine. Then I'm going to do a saturator. All right, we'll start there. And then the next thing we're going to do is add an arpeggiator. We'll put this on 2. All right, and then from there, an expression control. When you load expression control, it'll look like this. We're going to switch all of these to random. I have one here saved that's already all randoms. And then the other thing is that I have them turned to remote. Most of the time I'll use remote depending on what I'm doing. But for this, we're just going to leave this little button here on remote. And then I'm going to map this to the shape. I'm going to map it to detune. Map it to this oscillator. You can sort of map these wherever you want. The only thing is you don't want to, most likely, if you're kind of like going for a kick drum sort of thing, avoid stuff like attack, because if we get a random value, we won't hear anything because it's taken so long for the attack to sort of get through that initial state. So I'm just going for a couple of these tonal things here. Maybe we could even do the noise. All right, so that's that. We don't need that anymore, and we don't need this anymore. The next thing we're going to do is add a few effects. You can sort of do whatever you want. I'm going to use delay and reverb, and maybe a chorus, since we have it. I'm going to put this here. And then we're just going to add another expression control and sort of do the same thing. But again, like we were talking about with the attack and stuff like that on the synthesizer, I don't want this to randomly end up here to where it's gonna again, it's one of those things you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that's not the sort of sound that I'm going for. So I'm going to map this to here and put the range at about 30%, somewhere in there. I'm going to map this to rate, this to maybe amount. Same thing. I'm not going to do anything with the feedback so that it doesn't kind of go way out of control. Go to the dry wet, put that at 50 so it doesn't go completely wet. That's it for these. And then for the reverb, leave the decay down. Maybe do something with the size. I'm going to duplicate this. Dry wet. And then I'm going to do another saturator. a compressor. I think that kick might be going on a little bit too long. I'm going to turn the sustain down. Depending on how you have all this stuff set up, it may ring out for longer than half a bar. So I'm going to put an auto pan at the very end. Switch it to half a bar because that's what the arpeggiator is at. Turn the phase down and put it on this envelope sort of shape. So it won't work now when you hit your key because it's not going to be quantized. So we're going to come in here and do that. That's too high. I'm going to modulate this as well here on the input filter. Maybe the delay filter as well. All right, that's enough. So now what I'm going to do is just extend this out to 32. And I'll explain why in a minute. It's because we're going to be using simpler, but let's just kind of do one thing at a time here. So we have this 32 bars here, and we're going to get 2 kicks per bar. So now that this is all done, let's freeze it and see what it looks like. I'm going to hit freeze and flatten. And now we have this sample. You can see that when I did that, everything got deleted. So if you're not sure, you might want to save it. You can duplicate it and then freeze the one that you're not using, but I'm not too worried about it. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. So now we have this sample here, and we're going to add a MIDI track. I'm just going to drag this onto the MIDI track. So now it's in a simpler. And hit slice, and you can see that it's sliced already because it's on transient, but we have like 1 or 2 here. I'm just going to go to region and then 64. So now we have 64 different kicks here like this. So now I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to group this to a drum rack. Turn that on. So you can see when I hit A on my keyboard, we're right here, which isn't quite in the middle. The slice is going to be chosen by the incoming MIDI note. So I'm going to put a pitch here. And that's sort of how we select the particular note that we want. Then I'm going to do random, chance at 100%, choices at 24, and bidirectional. So that's only, 48 choices. I'm pretty sure this works right in that you could put another random afterward and add those last couple random notes, if that makes sense. So you can see where I'm going with this. Now we have all these different kicks, but they're all sort of like related a little bit. So there's some context, but kind of adds some interest. So if we just draw on our kick now, we'll get a random kick each time this happens. I'm going to add a second one. I just hold Alt on my keyboard and drag it over. So now we have a second one here. I'm going to drag an arpeggiator in here, but I'm going to put it on the other side because I don't want every time the arpeggiator sends out a MIDI note, I don't want a new note. I just want it to happen once. And you can put this wherever you want. One way you could do this is to just sort of map this to a macro or just come into the clip and draw your automation. I don't really like doing that if I don't have to. I prefer to sort of base everything off of triggers. So I'm going to put this one maybe on 16. And then I'm going to bring another one here and put it on 48. But then what I'm going to do is put an expression control there. Select increment, and we'll go 2 steps. So now, you can see it sort of jumping back and forth. You could do a 3rd step or a 4th step. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to map this to the transpose. All right. So you can hear, actually that's still pretty low, but still, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to select all of this stuff, hit Command G and group it. Now underneath of this kick, I'm going to build another thick sort of big kick, just to sort of really make this be the main point. I'm going to hit mute. Then do another saturator, put this on bass shaper. So every time you sort of double tracks up like this, it's going to get louder and louder technically. So I usually try to keep on top of that sort of stuff and just turn things down as I add things. But no matter what, I always end up clipping everything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But all right, so now we can start drawing in. We have, this is our sort of main driving kick drum. This is our first sort of arpeggiator thing. And then this is the one that maybe sometimes goes faster or whatever. And the reason I say maybe is just because we're going to select all of these, come down here and hit chance, and just turn the chance down a bit on all these. So let's see. The other thing, if you want, you could like take maybe 2 of these and increase them just that way. They go on a little bit longer. But there's a chance both of these may trigger at the same time. So I'm going to come in here to the drum rack and just put them both in the same choke group. Like this. This one, I think I'm going to pitch it up just a little bit. slide on here. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this from synced to milliseconds. Then remap it to there. And then, oh no, that wasn't there. That was on, but that's fine. I'll just switch this to random as well. All right, I'm just going to round it all off with a beat repeat because we can. I hit this little insert button here. If you do mix, the repeat will happen on top of the mix. Insert, it'll cut the mix out and just do the beat repeat. And then gate, nothing will happen until a beat repeat happens. All right. So there's kind of a lot going on in this one little rack, and it can get a little heavy depending on your computer, especially with the expression controls and stuff. What I'm going to do next is what we did before. I'm just going to bring this in here, and I don't know, I guess I want my song to be 1 minute and 40 seconds long. Like I said before, when we freeze and flatten this, all of this stuff is going to disappear. So if you want to kind of keep it, you want to duplicate it first, which I'm going to do that. And then I'm just going to turn this off. Also, if things are getting a little heavy, just turn the whole rack off. That way it's not eating up any CPU. All right. So now that we have this, I'm just going to freeze and flatten. So now we have this to work with. And suppose you're using like some drum loops or something, you can sort of come in here and, I don't know, maybe delete something, or you really like this part because that's cool. You can duplicate it. The other thing is we've frozen this, and we froze it at 120. So if you really like the way it sounds, you may want to commit to a particular BPM, but since this is glitch music, it's kind of more of a experimental process. So with warping on, let's just see what it sounds like if we drop it down to like 65. Or maybe on texture. Then speed. I think there's a way you can modulate these, but I can't remember what the exact process is. But you can't, like, I don't think you can map anything to them. At least you couldn't before. But if you like what's happening there, you can add another track, not a MIDI track, and turn on resampling, record. And then we'll just play this while it's recording. Back in here and oh, actually something else. Fine. I don't know what I was worried about there. Hey, why did it stop recording? Now we have this sample. with. So we can come back in here, put that on beats, pitch, and we're back where we started, but we have this crazy weird sample. So we could add another MIDI track, bring this into here, and then just something like that. Now we have something else to play with. You be quiet. Let's go back to here. Why can't I hear it? Because it's off. So, and really, since we're kind of limited with tracks, the other thing we could do is just drag this into our drum rack and have it in there with this. So now we can get rid of that and draw in the notes we want. But inside drum rack, you can't pick, well, I mean, you can shift it around here, but you can't change it every time it comes through unless, can you? I feel like you can, but I don't remember exactly. So let's pretend that you can't for right now. What you'll do to sort of select a different track is just what we talked about before with like pitch or a random or something like that. The other option is, since we're just kind of going for those random glitchy sounds, is to just put an expression control in there and modulate the start. As stuff gets like more and more dense in there, other stuff opens up as far as like just seeing what happens if you saturate all of that, because there's so much going on. It may be kind of interesting just to sort of see. Let's turn that big kick off. Where was that? Where's the big kick? There? No, here. Yeah, lots of potential. So, yeah, more glitchy, sort of crazy ideas for whatever Ableton stuff you're using. I'm going to save all this. I'll put it on Patreon. This will be a free download for anybody who wants to try it out or kind of maybe turn this into a track or whatever. Again, just sort of a random way to kind of get things interesting and see where you can go with it. I'll often just sort of continue down this path of freezing and then messing with it and then freezing and then messing with it because like as it is right now, that's kind of getting into the territory where like that could be your main bass sound. Like you could find a few spots where it's doing something interesting, repeat that over and over again with a kick and snare, and it'll kind of turn into a track. But yeah, more ideas. All right, thanks for watching.